Happy 4th of July, everyone. In celebration of Independence Day this year, I'm making this American flag coat rack that you can also use to hide weapons for home defense. Last hunting season, a friend of the family let us hunt on his property, and I wanted to make him something to show my appreciation. This is a simple build from 1x4s and a few supplies, and the simple version took me less than 3 hours to build. In fact, it was so quick and easy that after I built it, I decided I wanted a little more of a challenge and made it into a gun concealment coat rack as well. Now I'll put a link in the description for the plans, which includes both versions if you'd like to play along at home. They include a cut list, materials list, and step-by-step instructions. I'll also put links for all the materials I used in this build in the description below. All right, let's get after it. The first part of this build is to make the top half of the American flag that you've seen me build in a video before. This is just a matter of cutting strips of wood for the stripes, burning them to get that nice dark look, staining them red, white, and blue, securing them together using scrap plywood or other cutoffs, and then spraying the stars on using a template. If you want more detail on anything up to this point, go check out that video I mentioned, which I'll link below. Now once all that, get out of here. Now once all that was done, I was ready to move on to the frame. Now the frame on this project is really simple. It has two sides, a shelf on the top, and a shelf on the bottom, and a backboard where the hooks will be attached to. And it's all connected by butt joints. Now for these side pieces, I want to put a curve on the outsides just so it isn't quite as blocky right here. And to do that, I'm going to use this router corner curve guide thingy. What do you call this thing? Router corner radius jig to get the profile I'm looking for. I'll initially use it to draw the curve so that I can rough cut the bulk of the material off at the bandsaw. Then I'll attach the router template using two-sided tape and cut off the excess with a flush trim bit. Once that's complete, I'm ready to burn the frame and attach it using glue and brad nails. You could also use screws if you want to. Now the frame is very simple. I start by nailing the very top piece into the top of the flag, and then I attach the two sides. Then comes the bottom shelf, and finally the backboard that the hooks will attach to. All that's left after that is to install the coat hooks evenly spaced across the backboard. Now you can have as few or as many hooks as you want, but the plans will detail the spacing you need for 5 because that's what I went with. Now the final step is how to hang it. You can use hanging hardware like I did here, or use some of the cutoffs or scrap plywood to make a French cleat. If you're expecting this thing to hold some serious weight, I would recommend the French cleat. Okay, I think that's it. I need to turn a fan on. It is getting hot in here.
What's the weather like out there? It's hot, real hot.
Okay, so if you're just wanting the coat rack, then you're all done. Hang it up and enjoy. But this was such a quick and easy build that I wanted a little more of a challenge. So let's make one that's for gun concealment. Now when I designed this project, I didn't want it to lift open like a lot of the ones out there already. I wanted it to slide up to open and latch into place. This is also convenient because if I have anything on the top of it, it doesn't fall off. Now you can put foam in here cut out perfectly to the guns you have, or you can do what I do and get these really strong magnets that will hold your weapons and gear in place. You can also use an RFID lock to make sure that your weapons are secured. Now the process for the flag portion is exactly the same, and the frames, shelves, and backboard for the hooks are all the same. What's different about this build is that you'll have to cut these extra pieces to mount the drawer slides too, and you'll need a piece of plywood for the very back. You'll also assemble this one very differently. Let me show you what I mean. All right, so I've got all the parts I need for the gun concealment version. As you can tell, it's pretty much the same thing with a couple of exceptions. For this version, you're gonna have a couple more pieces, which are these two pieces that hold on to the drawer slides and it will attach the drawer slides to the sides. And then this will be the backboard that you will screw directly into the wall, and you'll screw your magnets to that will hold on to your weapons. So it'll look like this. You'll have a drawer slide up against the side. The other side of the slide will screw into this board, and then this board will screw into the back of the flag. When it's all assembled, these pieces, the flag, and the top shelf will all slide up, and the rest of it will be stationary. Now for this version, I'm definitely going to use pocket hole screws to hold it all together. And in the plans, I'll show you where I put each one of them. But a good tip, especially if you've already got it laid out like this, is to go through each board and mark where you want the pocket screws. That way you can pick it up and take it right over and put them in the exact spot you want them to be, and then bring them right back, no mistakes. All right, let's cue the build montage. Okay, so for the sliding mechanism, I know I want the main part of the drawer slide against the side wall, and then this piece inside. So what I'm gonna do is take some two-sided tape, put it on the drawer slide, press it up against there, and then I can screw it into this board, and then I'll extend it, and then screw it back into this board. Once they're right where I want them to be, then I can screw this board into the back of the American flag. Instead of taking the drawer slide apart, I decided to nail the flag into the boards and then gently flip the whole thing and then screw it in from the backside. I did the same thing for the top shelf because it works so well. Now to install the magnets, it's real easy. They come with screws. Just make sure they don't blow out the backside of the plywood here. But you also want to consider these cleats back here. So whatever weapons you have, just make sure these cleats aren't going to bump into it as it closes. For instance, mine will go right there, and as it closes, it just barely closes. But if it were in the way of those cleats, then it would hit the gun. Man, that's a good magnet. Nice. All right, so all that's left is to install the hooks. But before I do that, a couple considerations for you in case you make one of these. The first one is on when you burn the wood. Now, I only burned the sides that you're actually gonna see. So the backside or the underside of some of these boards didn't get burned. But the problem is that when you burn one side, it has a tendency to warp. And if you burn both sides, then it can kind of counteract that a little bit at least. And the second thing I'll point out is that if you're gonna have this mounted flush to the wall, you may wanna make this board a little bit more narrow so that it doesn't rub up against the wall whenever you slide it up and down. This thing turned out absolutely awesome. It's so low profile that you'd hardly know that it's a gun concealment shelf. It's the perfect gift for someone's hunting cabin or just for your entryway. Happy 4th of July, everybody.